Welcome to part 2 of our lesson all about ballads. Those dramatic love songs that have been making people cry, both in a good way and a bad way, practically since people started singing songs. Now, in this part of the lesson, we're going to talk about ballad form. So what is ballad form? Ballad form describes the two ways, or the two groups, we can put every ballad in. It also tells us the history of ballads, how they've changed over time, and what a ballad is today in the singing world. Those two types of ballad form are traditional and modern. Now, we're going to teach you all about traditional ballads first. So let's talk about traditional ballad form, which means ballads as they were written and sung throughout history before modern times, the times you and I live in now. Traditional ballads were originally very popular in places like Ireland, Scotland, and all throughout England. Because they came from places where people mostly spoke English, they've carried over well into our culture and into present day. Most of the ballads that were popular back in those times were taken from poems and songs written in the late medieval period. Medieval means the Middle Ages, which was the 5th century all the way to about the 15th century. Times of knights and riding horses and maidens and distress and chivalry and all that kind of stuff. That's almost 1,000 years ago when ballads got their start. And they're still around. Okay, so many traditional ballads are about the dark side of love and life. They aren't the happy, sappy boy meets girl love songs we hear today. They were pretty tragic stuff, actually. That's a big difference between traditional ballads and the ballads people have been writing and recording in the music for the last few decades. Traditional ballads were written in 4-line stanzas. Stanzas are the parts that make up a poem. A stanza just means an arrangement of lines, usually 4 or more. It's a rhyming pattern where the end of the second and fourth line will usually rhyme with each other, or the end of the second line rhymes with the end of the first. Let me just give you an example of what that means. This is from an old traditional ballad called The Masker's Song. And no one knows who actually wrote it, but it goes like this. I open this door, I enter in, I hope your favor for to win. Whether we shall stand or fall, we endeavor to please you all. So you hear how the first line and the second line rhyme? Then the third line starts again, and the fourth and final line rhymes with it. That's our stanza. Now let's talk about modern ballads, the ballads that we're singing today, and how they're different from the old style. To begin with, a modern ballad doesn't have to have that old rhyming structure you just heard me perform. Well, kind of perform. I'm talking about pop/rock ballads, power ballads, or jazz and blues ballads. They're all sung in their own style, no different from other songs in those styles of music. Also, a modern ballad will still tell a story, but it might describe feelings and ideas more than things that happen to actual characters. Modern ballads are also more about love and less about the sad parts of life. Power ballads and pop rock ballads in particular are almost always about love. So now you know about traditional ballads and modern ballads. In the last part of our lesson, we'll get into the types of ballads you might actually find yourself singing in your career. What are they and how to approach them?